Hi, I'm Steve Adubato. It's my honor, my pleasure to welcome you to NJIT's Jim Wise Theater. This is a series we're calling Newark at a Crossroads, and the guy you're about to see on camera knows what it means to talk about Newark at a Crossroads. He is Armando Fontoura, the sheriff, the great county of Essex, who's seen a lot in the city, huh?
I have. I happened to be walking the beat when the riots broke out in 1967. I was a rookie cop, walking the beat on Market Street between Penn Station and the courthouse.
What was it like, Armando?
It was an experience that we weren't prepared for, didn't expect. We should have expected it. We should have been prepared for it, but we were not. As a police department, we were just in total disarray. And it broke your heart. It broke your heart because you saw the city that you loved, the city that you grew up in, the city that you were raised in, and just go up in flames, you know. And you knew it was going to be a difficult thing for it to recover from that.
5 days?
It actually was principally 3 days. You know, the fourth and the fifth were lighting up a little bit. The first 3 days were very hectic and very violent.
A lot of people were killed.
26 people died, including a police officer and a firefighter.
You know, Armando saw that. Again, Armando is elected in his position overwhelmingly again and again as a sheriff in this county, but he also deals with law enforcement issues at the grassroots level and understands crime on that level, understands drugs and gang violence, and understands the city. And also, Armando, while he comes from, he knows from Portugal, the other piece of it is the ironbound section of the city, which is a lot of folks from Portugal and Brazil and other places. But I got to ask you this. Do you believe the city, on some level, never recovered from the 1967 riots, never really, truly recovered?
Excuse me, I believe that to be the case. I don't think we fully recovered yet. I think that we survived. We survived. And now we're starting to revive ourselves. You know, before you can revive, you have to survive. We were able to accomplish that. And I think that the ironbound section, my neighborhood,
were you separated?
Well, you're not separated, but we had a lot to do with that because, as you know, the thing that broke my heart the most is that within 6 months of the riots, the middle class, the white flight began to take place.
Particularly in my neighborhood. By the way, I was a kid, 8 or 9, growing up there. It was everybody in my neighborhood, not everyone, my family stayed. A lot of them in my neighborhood in the north ward of Newark, where we moved up 280, right?
Cool.
Down the Jersey Shore, gone, we're out of here. What did that do?
First neighborhood was Weequahic.
Weequahic?
Within 6 months, Weequahic was, if people couldn't sell their home, I saw places boarded up, beautiful homes just boarded up, and they, you know, all the farms in Livingston and the Caldwells and up there began to develop, you know. And then after Weequahic, North Ward, then eventually the West Ward, where the Irish enclave was.
What happens when it happened, Armando?
Well, what happens is that, you know, it changes. We went from a city to close to 400,000, well over 300,000 after the riots. Now we're down to 285. So it just tells you that.
And who left? People with means?
People with means, middle class, upper middle class first, middle class next. And then, of course, the factories began to leave, also closed for different reasons, so that kept other folks from coming back in if they wanted to. But the one area that did not leave was my neighborhood. I'm very proud of it.
People say the ironbound, it's iron all around. It's what I call the ironbound, right? Past Penn Station. What's really going on there, though?
I think what goes on is it's a neighborhood that's always been able to thrive. I think it's a neighborhood that changed every 20 years or so. You know, the Germans were here, then the Lithuanians, then the Poles, then the Italians and the Irish, then the Portuguese, right? And now it's changing again. We have new neighbors, the Brazilians, Ecuadorians, and some Mexicans are starting to come in. So the evolution is beginning again. But the fact of the matter is that after the riots, for the ironbound, nobody left.
Why?
Stayed back, and I think it helped the city survive.
Why didn't they leave?
Because I think they took pride in their home. They had a lot invested in businesses down there, as you know, a lot of restaurants. People were in construction businesses, and they just stayed. They don't want to just give up their home. You know, they came from Europe with the mentality this is a better place for us to work at, and they just stuck together, stuck with one another, look out for each other. And you take a look down here, it's still a great neighborhood.
It's interesting. Every time I've been down there with you, other than the fact that people all seem to know you and recognize you, it's not about you, but it's about community and a sense of neighborhood and closeness that I used to experience in my old neighborhood as a kid growing up in the North Ward. It was very Italian. It's not about being Italian or Portuguese, it's just neighborhood. Is that one of the only neighborhoods left?
I think it's the most solid neighborhood that we have. I think there's other neighborhoods that are developed now, the Society Hill, the new housing there.
Pockets of neighborhoods.
Yeah, pockets that are coming back, the colleges, of course, the neighborhoods are within themselves. I think so these are all good signs. These are good signs, but the fact is that, like with crime, for example.
Yeah, talk about it.
Crime's biggest enemy is neighborhoods, people that look out for each other, people that are, there's a cohesiveness there. Something is awry, they look, so criminals don't feel comfortable working in a place where there are people always out there, there are people walking around, there are people still shopping till, late in the evening, going to restaurants. They don't feel comfortable in that kind of an environment. So as a result, it's a safer neighborhood.
But Armando, we talk about Newark at a crossroads, and you know the suburban community because you run and serve countywide and 22 municipalities in this county, and obviously 556 throughout the state. And a lot of them look at Newark and they're like, okay, the Devils play there, NJ Pack, that's great, but do I want to go there? They're obsessed by the crime issue. Put in perspective what's real in terms of crime and what the perception is.
I think the perception of crime, people have a tendency to look at crime to the homicide rate. Police officers and communities have little to do with homicide. The homicides are kids that are targeting each other. If they decide that they take somebody out, they're going to take somebody out.
Is that gang-related mostly?
Most of us gang-related, most of us is drug-related. Okay, they target one another, have little respect for life. We have young people out here, fortunately not all young people, but it doesn't take many. If you have a couple of hundred kids that are involved in this kind of a thing, the thousands of other kids who want to go to school and do well and take care of their families just get overwhelmed by those. But the fact is that a better indicator is robberies, street robberies. Street robberies are down significantly, even though we have less police officers than we did in the past.
Yes.
Which is a problem. We need more bodies.
Several hundred less.
We need more bodies. About 300 or 400 down.
Right.
We laid off 165, but we didn't replace through attrition. So we lost an awful lot of police officers. We need more police officers. That's number one. But the fact is that, Newark is as safe as any city in America.
You believe that?
I do believe that.
As safe as Chicago, Philadelphia, New York City, Detroit. You believe that?
Well, you threw out Chicago. I mean, come on, man. Chicago, our friend Gary
McCarthy was here and now is over there. Go ahead.
We did the show together here. Remember,
That's right.
Gary's overwhelmed in Chicago. I mean, there's great. Well, New York is a different thing altogether.
You think there's anything unique about Newark crime?
No, absolutely not. Newark crime is the same as any other city in America. We may have a little bit more of it in some areas, less in other areas, but it's the same all over the city.
You believe in sitting down with the gangs? Because Baraka, and by the way, we'll have the mayor on, Mayor Baraka, looking forward to having him at our NJ Pack series when we sit down with him. He believes in sitting down with them.
Well, I think there's nothing wrong with sitting down with anybody. The question is, can you get them to the table? If you can get them to the table to negotiate, fine. And how sincere are they going to be? And who really are you going to get? You're going to get the real leaders, or just somebody who says that, yeah, I'm in a gang. That's the. Anytime you can discuss, it's like compare it to the Gaza Strip. Can you get these people to the table and talk? If we could do that, I'm all for it.
Final question before we let you out of here. You've been a part of the city for so long; it's in your blood. How optimistic are you about the future of this city? Not just what's going on downtown, but for the people outside of this community, in the South Ward, Central Ward, West Ward, people that are really struggling, not benefiting from all the great things downtown the way they would want to. How optimistic are you?
I'm optimistic. I don't want to say I'm very, very optimistic, but I'm optimistic because as a police officer, as a cop, you have to be an optimist. Because if you're not, you can be cynical, but you have to be an optimist. And I'm an optimist when it comes to the city of Newark. I'm anxiously awaiting for that day when we can, hopefully in my lifetime and your lifetime, we'll be able to see the glory of the city. When we had 9 theaters downtown when I was growing up, the neighborhood had its own theater. We had things to do, restaurants, people walking around. I want to be able to see that again after hours, not just on Ferry Street, but I want to see it on Broad Street. I want to see it on Bloomfield Avenue. I want to see it on Springfield Avenue. That's what I'm hoping to see in my lifetime, and I'm very optimistic that I'm going to get to see that.
You love Newark.
Love the city.
Armando, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, buddy. Stay
Thanks
right there.
very much.
A one-on-one from NJIT. We'll be right back right after this. Stay with us. Thanks, Sheriff.
One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation, celebrating over 25 years of broadcast excellence. Funding for this special edition of One-on-One with Steve Adubato at NJIT has been provided by New Jersey Institute of Technology, Prudential Financial's Global Communications Department, Barnabas Health, TD Bank, Josh S. Weston, the Fidelco Group, and by PSE&G. Transportation provided by Airbrook Limousine, serving the metropolitan New York, New Jersey area.